That's great. Thank you, Wendy. We set up this topic and this presentation more than 6 months ago now, and never has it seemed more relevant in the wake of the global COVID pandemic and the situation currently in the States, that as managers and leaders, we need to be able to have difficult conversations. We're facing that day by day. So even more than in normal parts of our career, as we develop, this seems particularly relevant right now. And while having difficult conversations doesn't solve anything, it is a great place to truly show your leadership. When you have these difficult conversations, having them and how you have them will demonstrate a lot to the people around you about your leadership values, what you think is important. It shows how you like to interact with people. They can build trust within the team, all of which is fundamental. And they help you demonstrate the kind of working world you want to create for your team. So what do we mean by a difficult conversation? Oops, there we go. Well, for me, a difficult conversation is any conversation that has the potential to cause anxiety in any way. So they're the ones that you worry about before you have them, or the ones that as they start, you find yourself thinking, hang on, I'm feeling out of my depth and uncomfortable here. So they're the kind of conversations that may have negative consequences for somebody. So if you're having to adjust the size of your team during the COVID pandemic and the return to work and how things are going to work within your business, you're probably about to have some difficult conversations. They're ones where emotions tend to be very high or could be heightened. So conversations around money and around how people's working worlds are often very emotional conversations, and that can make them difficult. The ones where we might be talking about a lot of change or uncertainty, hello our world at the moment, welcome to it. If they're about a sensitive or a personal topic, if we're sharing something that maybe people don't want to hear, or if it's a combination of all of the above. So we're going to need a lot of these difficult conversations, and how can we make sure we get good outcomes from them? Well, as in many things in life, preparation is absolutely the key. That's not to say that if you find yourself in the middle of one of these conversations, you aren't going to get a great outcome. It's just going to be a little bit more work on the fly. And this process I'm going to share with you about getting ready for them will work just as well in the heat of the meeting. So if you find yourself in a situation where you haven't done the preparation, but it's become one of these challenging conversations, these 3 sets of things to work through will help you get a good outcome. Now, I'm going to very much focus on the preparation because every difficult conversation, as you'll have taken from what we're defining as a difficult conversation, is going to be different. But if we do the work to get ourselves ready, either for this specific meeting or for these meetings in general, we'll be able to guide that outcome and get a good one. So really there are 3 key questions that we need to address as we get ready for these meetings. What really is the situation? What do I want from the conversation? And what do I need to do to be ready for that conversation? So if you take nothing else from this presentation, remember those 3 questions and let's dig into them a little bit more deeply. So what really is the situation? We need to get to the bottom of what's happening, what's going on. We need to get really curious and ask ourselves and potentially other people who've been involved for the information we need to get really clear about what has actually happened and what is actually going to happen. So we need to get to the facts. We need to be able to get impartial with them. And we need to understand the impact of the situation and potentially what the person that we're talking to has done or is going to do or what it's going to be on them. So, and that impact is where feelings come back into it. So if you think about a feedback situation where you're telling somebody how a conversation went from your perspective, the facts may be the same, but they may not be aware of the impact that conversation has had on you and your feelings in the situation. So feelings are important when we're giving feedback and when we're having difficult conversations, and it's about the impact of actions on those feelings so that people can understand and choose how they react. You want to look at the results and you want to look at the impact and the situation from your personal perspective, from the person you're talking to's perspective, from a team's perspective, and from a wider business perspective as well. So you need to take all those contexts into account as you really dig into what the situation is. The other thing you need to do in thinking about the situation is to challenge your own assumptions. We're bombarded by a huge amount of information day by day, and the way we process that in our minds is we group things together and we make assumptions. Now, when you're digging into the situation that's happening, you need to really challenge your assumptions on what you've heard and what you've seen and what's going on, and make sure that they're valid. So with that, you then have some good information to take into the conversation. And as I say, if you need to validate what you're thinking with somebody else, then do. If you know the conversation is really pressing some of your personal hot buttons, then make sure you've understood what they are and how that's impacting things. The next question that you need to think about going into these meetings is, what do I want to get from the conversation? What is a good outcome? What are the possibilities? What are the different options? What are the variant of those things? Because if you thought that through beforehand, it's much easier to concentrate and to be fully present in the conversation to work out what the best option is. So doing some prep work around that means that you can free up capacity in your brain to be focused on the conversation and then pick up the solution that's right. In the corporate context, if it's impacting people's roles, you may need to have checked some of those options that you have with somebody else to see what's available. If, for example, you are talking about redundancy or layoffs, you'll need to know what options there really are, and you'll probably need some input from your HR team around those. If you're giving performance feedback and going down a formal performance management process, again, you may need to check some of those options out beforehand. So make sure you're really clear going into the meeting what you want from it. And that then leads to the third question, which looks nice and innocuous on one level. What do I need to do to be ready for the meeting? Well, there are two sets of things you need to think about under this. There are the physical things. So have I booked somewhere suitable to have the conversation? Have I found a nice quiet room? When are we going to do it? What's the best time of day? What's the best medium for having this conversation? Is it a text message? Is it a Zoom call? Is it a webinar? Is it a phone call? Is it a written communication? You need to pick the one that's appropriate for this conversation. And generally, if it's a difficult conversation, my steer is to make it as personal as possible. So right now I'd be having conversations over the internet, so video conferencing. If you're back and able to meet in a socially distanced and appropriate for your geographical location way, then face-to-face is always best. So what do we need to do to make that happen physically? Have you invited the other person? Do they know what the meeting's about? When is it going to be? Have you got the right level of privacy? All those kind of physical things that you need to put in place ahead of the meeting. Have you got any documents that you need to back up what you're saying? And the other thing you need to think about is, and I've alluded to this a little bit before, is getting yourself ready for the conversation.
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also gaining complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.